and a 1 and a 2 and a 3. Screen fades out, and here we go. Yo!
This is how tonight feels, dude. All right, trust me, I know that.
That's funny. Okay,
That's actually the best way to start this thing, Bonner. It should just be yeah. That's how we started. So welcome to Gotham.
Yo, Shortbox Nation. Welcome back to the podcast. You know the deal by now. New Wednesday, new comic book day, new arcade sounds. I just made a high score. You know, the arcade is registering that. But yeah, new comic book day means new podcast day. It's really quick. Is that going to go off the whole time?
No, yeah, we should probably turn it off.
What is it?
It's the Pac-Man machine.
Oh, I figured
You know, it's got that with arcades. I forgot all about that thing, so we'll try it.
Good.
Yeah, well, Bonner, you know, it's not a day at the limit unless you just get some random Pac-Man noises.
Well, it's pushing me to the limit, so here we go.
It is. Let's try it one more time, baby.
Yo, Shortbox Nation, welcome back to the podcast. You know the deal by now. It's new Wednesday, which means it's new comic book day, which means it's new podcast day. Thank you for pressing play. And if this is your first time tuning in, well, welcome to the show. My name is Bodder, and this is the Shortbox Podcast, the comic book podcast that brings you the best conversations about your favorite comic books with the people that put their blood, sweat, and tears into making them. And on special occasions like today, we also talk to the people that put their blood, sweat, and tears into selling them. That's right. This is episode 443. I always lose track. We're at 443. We're getting close to 450. But today's episode is 443. And we're going to get a head start on all of these end of year, best of year discussions because in the next couple of weeks, everyone is going to be inundated, whether you like it or not, with a bunch of best of year listicles and podcasts and clips talking about this year and recap in general, but I'm getting ahead of all of that, all right? We're going to talk about what this year has given us in terms of comic books, the amazing creative teams that have come out, the amazing publishers and companies that have made it happen. So yeah, we're talking about best of comics. Sorry. We're talking about the best of comic books in the year 2024. Way ahead of time, all right? And for me to do that, I decided to get out the house, right? I wanted to do this one a little different. I'm not recording this one at home. If you're watching the video version, you're like, I know exactly where you're at. Get the ball rolling, buddy. But for our audio listeners, let me set the scene, all right? On rare occasion, it's very rare now that I get to leave the house to record an episode of the podcast, right? Con season has slowed down, so I'm not doing much traveling there. I'm not doing many live shows nowadays. So the opportunity to do a Shortbox field trip is far and few between. But today, I got to go ahead and make a drive out to one of my favorite places in all of Jacksonville and probably all of Florida at that, right? I'm talking about my local comic shop. I'm here at Gotham City Limit, Jacksonville's premier shop for comics, collectibles, toys, and a whole lot more, to talk with someone that is incredibly appropriate for an episode like this. You heard him a couple episodes back in episode 435 that was released in July. I'm once again joined by your favorite comic shop's favorite comic shop owner, the one and only Ben Kingsbury. I'm going to give Ben, the video listeners probably won't hear this, but you're getting a roaring crowd.
Well, you know what? I can hear it in my head. That's the best part about being bipolar. And man, am I feeling good today. Bodder, thanks for coming, man. We're going to take this place to the limit.
Ben, yeah, I'm going to keep the preamble and the intro short today because we got a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
As my friend John Stewart would say, we've got plenty to talk about.
And unless you want to be here with me all night, you better get started because everyone knows I like to talk.
All right, Ben, so last time, all right, once again, we're here to talk about the year 2024 in comic books. So we're talking about the best comics, the best series, the best creative teams, the publishers that made it happen, all of the good stuff. We had an opportunity to do something like this a couple of months back in July when we did our mid-year check-in with you. I told you I'd be back in December to do this, and we wanted to do this this recap end-of-year thing a little early because today, which is Monday, December 2nd, is when we're recording this. This episode goes live on Wednesday, December 4th, which means that we are 4 days into the legendary 25 days of Christmas Gotham City Limit sale. Is it 25 days or is it all of
yeah,
December?
I mean, that's how we used to do it. When we turned this place into an advent calendar every single year, that was kind of the idea. I did that back in the day when I was by myself, hanging letters up on the door. This year, we actually decided to make it even a little bit better. Obviously, one of the big things that we do around here is that we just enjoy having a local shop. And whenever we can give back to the community or take care of the community, that means more to us than anything else. I mean, Jonathan will tell you, my general manager here, and everybody else who works here, if we love money, we wouldn't own a comic shop, right? And that is not the reason that we started a comic shop. So this December, we're upping the ante even more. Every single day through December 24th, it's literally 20% off everything at the limit. And then each day on our social media, we'll add a bonus item. So like today on Mondays, we always sell our incentive variants for half off. Well, today we sold them at 60% off. So you can follow Gotham City Limit on our social media if you're lucky enough to take it to the limit here in person. But we're rocking the sales the entire month, and then we'll add new ones each day to just kind of spice it up a little bit. But we figured, instead of trying to get someone out here on a Monday or a Tuesday or a Saturday, ooh, I missed that sale. We always rock our books 35% off anyway, the hardcover, trade paperback, and omnibuses. So we said, you know what? 20% off the limit for everybody the entire month. That way, when you're ready to shop for Christmas, you pick that day, you come in, you get hooked up.
Ben, I love hearing that, and can I say, as obviously a frequent shopper, I get a lot of my Christmas shopping done here, like especially when it comes to like my nephews and things that I can't figure out what in the world they're into.
Well, it's a big joke with my family because everybody gets stuff from the limit. So my mother has more Harry Potter cookbooks than she'll ever need
like,
in her
"Ben,
entire
please."
life. I mean,
I don't even like Harry Potter.
last
son.
year, I think I bought an Elvis book for my dad. And I was like, whoa, my dad liking this place. Elvis, brand new one. Let's do it. So, no, 100%. Actually, nephews and nieces are the most fun to shop for because in this age, in this era, they didn't just grow up playing with action figures. So last year was like one of my favorite Christmases of my life simply because I got to take Thanos and Green Lantern and Wolverine and Spider-Man and my 6-year-old and 8-year-old nephews who really never play with action figures had the time of their lives just running around the house with a couple figures. You didn't need an iPad. You didn't need a game. It literally was that easy. They're like, Uncle Ben, does he fly? I'm like, absolutely. And they just ran around the house with him.
In your multiverse, you sure can.
Yeah.
Ben, are you an easy person to shop for? Like if I was to ask
I am the dumbest easy person to shop for, 100%. I mean, actually, what makes it hard is most of the stuff I like, if I want it, I own it already, so when it comes to this kind of stuff. But in my older age, I've literally shifted into practicality gifts. So like anywhere I shop, if you got me a certificate for that place that I already went to, but really what it comes down to is what people actually know about you. And Jonathan always hooks me up, man, gets me the best presents ever. So in terms of that stuff goes, if you know me well, then it's very easy. I have some very easy likes. We'll jump into it, but basically everything I love from the 80s is all coming back. So we'll get into it later on in this podcast. But if you find something from 1982 to 1994 in this genre, there's a good chance that I'm into it.
Yeah, nostalgia core is back, man. It's strong.
The member berries, dude, from South Park. Yeah, I got my member berries. I got member berries, dude. Get your member berries.
All right, Ben. So we're recording this, early December. Last time we chatted was in July. So we're looking at August, September. A couple months have passed since then. How have the last couple months since we chatted? How have they gone for you? How have the shop been? How are you doing?
Well, we're doing real good. I guess so. The last time we chatted, someone had just driven their car through the front of this place a couple of months before that. So
That literally feels like a lifetime ago now.
Right?
Wow.
No, it wasn't that long ago. It was last March.
Wow.
That was this year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was it. Feels like it was 8 years ago
It really
because
does.
it was so insane and so crazy. But so I was actually commenting today that I can't believe it's December already. The last 2 months, specifically October and November, have just flown by. They've gone by quicker than anything. But, this year has turned out to be a blessing in disguise. I ended up, Santana is back and she's done with her physical therapy now on her knee and she's recovered. Obviously, she's dealing with things that she's going to deal with her entire life. She's a superwoman in that aspect. But Chloe and Jonathan here have really made this place so much better. And then honestly, the competitors that we have in town, one of them stopped selling new comics this year,
Hmm.
brand new stuff, and another one continues to kind of do what they do in their own world where they're not really interested. So we have just continued to get busier and busier to the point where I make jokes all the time with Jonathan. I'm like, Jonathan, you have to be mean to 3 people today because I can't fucking handle this business right now. All right. So no, it's been awesome. This place is it's a blessing in disguise every single year. Um, we raised a bunch of money for the local humane society this year. My dog Pacer obviously is the spokesperson of this place. He won their contest and is going to be going on billboards across the city next year. Raised $16,000. We raised almost $2,000 in
Holy
here for
moly.
the Jacksonville Humane Society. So we really do, in terms of what this shop is, it's very much a community place, and it always has been, and it'll continue to grow like that. But it's been a blur since the woman drove her car in this place, but honestly, it has been all uphill. We have been, or downhill, I should say. We have been cruising and really
There
just
we go.
working our ass off to get more people to enjoy this place and to get to come up and be a part of it. You know, we had multiple people in here today, didn't even buy anything, but they just come and hang out. Oh, I was on this side of town. Oh, I got 15 minutes to kill. That kind of stuff is
Yeah.
really cool to me. So.
Ben, I gotta say, I feel like I was thinking about it today that I feel like you guys have you guys have like found your squad, you know, like your trio, right? Like I was like, man, they're kind of like they're like the '90s Bulls, you know, like we
Yeah,
got
well,
Michael
hey,
Jordan.
man,
Jonathan is your
I'm
Scottie
not
Pippen.
but
I think
what-
Santana might be. She might be. Oh my God, I'm drawing a freaking blank.
No, she's what's Bill Cartwright, the center, yeah, and they had Will Purdue back then, Scottie Pippen, Michael Jordan, Terry Hodges shooting
on.
some threes. We got all kinds of stuff.
I feel like
happening
Dennis
there.
Rodman.
Dennis
There you go.
Rodman, that was the one you were trying
Thank
to
you.
get
I was
to.
like, I know. I
Well,
miss
no,
it.
yes, Santana is our Dennis Rodman
She
because
absolutely
Santana sabotages me all the time. Santana, if you're listening to this, I know what you did to me. No, well, Jonathan also is our Dennis Rodman because he likes to hide some of our cool stuff. But no matter what, you got to have these people. I am very picky. I've told this to Jonathan. I've told this to Chloe. I've told this to Santana. But if you work here, it means I really love you as a human being because this is the only place in the entire world where I kind of control what happens in here. And I have been beyond fortunate to find amazing people. And they all kind of come out of nowhere, much like many of the opportunities that we kind of jump on. You don't really know what's about to happen. They stop in, you meet them one time and you say, you know what, you got the personality, the fit. I mean, and now I can actually have other people open and close this place. I can leave for a couple days. I can ignore my email. I can say, hey, Chloe has surprised me so much, came in here as just an awesome college student. And now we'll take you over to a random short box in here and find you exactly what you want.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so no, they're awesome.
You got the dream team, man.
Yeah, but that's all that matters, really, in here in terms of making this place operate. It is the people behind me. Without friendly neighborhood Jonathan, I mean, he puts away all our DC, puts away all our Marvel. He checks all this stuff in. He goes through ordering. He double checks my ordering to make sure he hides things from me. He knows he can sell for double later on. He's a sneaky little guy over here, this is Jonathan. But yeah, people are the best. It's what makes this place awesome. And then I know we built this place on personality, so I refuse to have people that don't have a personality.
Well said. Now, I guess, Ben, thinking about 2024 holistically, has this year been easier? Would you say this year has been easier or harder in terms of running a shop, maintaining it? And I guess just like thinking about like the industry as a whole.
Well, unfortunately, it has been harder. Not because the industry is bad or down. Money-wise, everything's been a little bit harder, I think, for everybody, right? And now you have $4.99 comic is pretty standard. You know, you get somebody who has a pretty big pull in here, and 70 or 80% of their comics are $4.99 instead of $3.99. You know, Spawn and Todd McFarlane and some of those still hold at $2.99 a few. But in terms of that aspect, it has been a little bit harder. But they have brought back, and like I said, I brought this up earlier. They've literally brought back some of the classics that have defined what American pop culture is for about 40 years now, and are introducing it to a whole new group of people. And man, do we have a lot of young people starting polls now. A lot of people from UNF come over. We're close to the college here in town, and we have really started a nice little pipeline of kids, just 18, 19, 20-year-olds who were born in 2005, Botter, okay? Just so you know, they come in here. They were born in 2005. I'm like, oh my God, get out of here.
I think my back just went out here.
Yeah, 100%. But, it's really inspiring seeing young people. And so what some of the comic book publishers have really been able to do was get a younger crowd involved in comics again. And what I mean by that is they brought back all the fan favorites, the stuff that makes me want to own a comic shop. G.I. Joe, Transformers, Thundercats, Silverhawks is coming, Space Ghost, so popular again. I mean, these things are more popular than Captain America or just plain Black Panther or even Doctor Strange. And so having product like that showing people, I mean, TMNT is one of the top selling comics of the year so far, and getting young people involved in that again. He-Man and Masters of the Universe are back. The Turtles of Grayskull is a fantastic thing. And then Naruto and TMNT was a smash hit success to get another type of crowd to read an American comic book. It's been, they've only done one issue of that so far, but that was a very, very successful crossover that I think is going to resonate. And I bet in 2025 and in the future, we're going to see a lot of manga and anime style characters mixed with American characters, because American companies have tried to sell manga, however you actually pronounce it, but we like our floppies. So if they can translate that to American floppy comic, then I think they're going to have a lot of success, because obviously One Piece, Naruto, Demon Slayer, those characters are infinitely popular.
Agreed. And I mean, the kids, air quotes, the kids you're talking about, these college students, that is what they grew up with. Right?
100%.
Like, they were there for the start of Naruto or One Piece, or, the explosion. And I think just anime becoming like very mainstream and popular. So yeah, I guess it will be interesting to see like what other companies like latch onto that and do more crossovers. But you brought up TMNT being a really high seller. And it got me thinking about an article I seen today that talked about, I think you've probably seen it as well. So last week, or these last 2 weeks, last week, DC had announced, hey, Absolute Batman, best-selling comic of the year.
Yep.
I think they said they sold more than 400,000 copies. Well, I seen a Bleeding Cool article today, and I guess take that for how you will, that said that actually Ultimate Spider-Man could realistically be a contender. And I was just curious, whether that be Absolute Batman or Spider-Man. I guess it's no surprise. I guess
Those
maybe
are
even
the
refreshing,
guys.
right? It's like, the two biggest, IPs out there, the two biggest comic creator or comic characters. I guess like from your perspective, what was a bigger seller, or was there maybe a third option?
No, I mean, I think what comic companies kind of accidentally ran into was the problem that they have with their legacy characters. And that is, we get a lot of people, even today, had someone come in and buy the first 4 issues of the new TMNT run that's going on. And they when you come in here and you're not familiar with how the comic book industry works, this is like walking into a shop where you don't speak the language. For sure. There's so much cool stuff, and you're like, ooh, I would like that, but I don't even know what's the difference between this cover and that cover and this one. And so it can seem overwhelming. Well, what has happened with that is a lot of people don't want to start a Batman story or start Amazing Spider-Man story. Even if we tell them it's a new story arc, people want to kind of feel like they know all of it, because no matter what, you read an Amazing Spider-Man, we're on 950 something right now. And if you haven't read something that happened in the 80s and 90s, they might reference it, but there's so much history. So what the Absolute and Ultimate universes have been able to do was capture the magic of what Spider-Man and Batman are, and then be able to tell a story from the very beginning that no one needed to know anything else except everything's in here. And that has happened with Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimate Batman, or Absolute Batman. Absolute Superman has actually been the one that is been the most surprising because Superman has been falling apart a little bit in
Okay.
terms of like readability. It's Superman's a little bit of an old time character, and and they were having a hard time for the last 20 or 30 years. That's why you saw Superman in a blue lightning, and you see
Yeah.
Superman with different. They're really trying to get Superman for a modern era, and I think Absolute Superman is exactly what they were looking for there.
I guess I'm not surprised to hear that like a new number one will bring in like new fans and like, garner that level of sales. I'm always curious about how many people that come in buying the new number one stick around for say up to issue 3 or 4, or even like past that.
Well, the good news is that because of the popularity of them, it's very easy for us to say, "Hey, you're getting this one," but if you want to make sure you get the next issue, go ahead,
Oh,
shoot us
okay.
an email. We'll get you on the poll, and we can guarantee it. But like anything else, after the first couple of issues, you find out who really wants to keep reading the story and who doesn't. But if anything, I have been adding people to every poll. Absolute Batman,
Nice.
Absolute Wonder Woman, Absolute Superman, every time an issue comes out, so it hasn't gone downhill.
Hmm.
And the Ultimate stuff, Ultimates, Ultimate Black Panther, Ultimate Spidey, those continue to stay pretty much at their level. Another thing we learn here, Botter, is like 90% of the people who buy fucking comics here don't even read anything, dude. You know what I mean? They'll come in here like 3 years later and be like, I actually missed issue 12. And I'm like, well, Brett, that came out 3.5 years ago, so I wish you had let me know earlier. I'll see if I can find you a copy. But in terms of readership, you always do tend to lose a few people as the stories continue because people like minis. And, unfortunately, you can't make Absolute Batman just 12 issues. You got to cook this. Scott Snyder says he's writing it for years.
Yeah.
However, that is a hard thing sometimes for the standard collector to stay up on because a comic every single month for years
For sure.
is quite a commitment to make.
And we all have commitment issues. If you're into comic books, you probably got some commitment
You
issues.
probably have some issues. You probably got some serious issues.
So okay,
Comic-wise.
Well, I guess would you say? Would you say that is maybe the biggest? I guess I won't
It's the
say
best
hurdle.
thing. It's the best thing that's happened to comics in 7 years that I've owned this place is that fresh reboots, like real reboots, not new number one Amazing Spider-Man, but it's really 60 years of Amazing Spider-Man. Transformers
Yeah.
is brand new. G.I. Joe, the first issue of G.I. Joe is bonkers, dude. Spoiler alert, but someone dies at the end of it. I mean, they don't mess
Yeah,
around, but
it
they're
is pretty
all
crazy.
and then every single character, even if you know who Bumblebee was and what happened to him in the beginning of Transformers, they still show you who the characters are and you didn't need to know anything. So even like Thundercats and Space Ghost and all these titles that we're bringing up, that's the beauty of what they got going on. And I think that's really what the best part of comics in 2024 was all about, literally taking these awesome characters that everybody already loves and giving us a brand new fresh start. I mean, Transformers 10 fucking prints at number one.
Yeah,
That's
pretty crazy.
bonkers.
But don't you worry that if it hasn't, I think you can make an argument that it has. But don't you worry that that just becomes kind of like diluted at some point, like that you always have to. Doesn't that run the risk of you always having to reboot a series? Like, would you rather them at some point just stick to a long?
I'm not
form or-
afraid of people with fucking imaginations. You know what I mean? And I think that's what we need in this business a little bit. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. I love all the stuff from the 80s and the fact that some of this stuff hasn't come back or they're doing it again now for the first time in a long time. But at some point, there are so many cool comics that come out of nowhere that capture the imagination and the money of people. And when those happen, they can come from any walk of life. So no, I'm never worried about a potential kind of like dulling down
Yeah.
of the industry, only because it's all about imagination. And who knows where ideas have come from? They just appear.
Okay, on that train of thought, what was a title, a series that came out this year that caught you by surprise in terms of maybe it coming out of left field, being really good, or selling more than you thought?
Yeah,
anything ring a bell?
well, Boom Studios in general, ever since Something's Killing the Children came out, the first couple issues of anything they do, people buy. This is what used to happen with Image Comics, and it doesn't happen as much with Image anymore as it used to. So Boom Studios has kind of taken Image's place in terms of if a #1 comes out. Well, what came out the other day? Fade Away, Jonathan, and we sold 25 copies. And I mean, was it a cool comic? Sure, but I didn't think it was a comic that was going to sell 25 copies the first 2 days we were open. So Boom Studios has kind of taken the mantle of that. My favorite comic that is going on miniseries wise that we only have 6 people on the pull for, and it's an Image comic, which is bonkers, Standstill. Lee Lowridge. And we're only, I think, 4 issues through right now of an 8-part series. But it is about a guy who steals a watch where he can stop time, stand still. And the story's been phenomenal. It's a great little independent comic there. And that's one that I highly recommend to people. If you're looking for a random independent title to read, Standstill is the one. I'm interested to see how it ends because that is always the hardest part of a story is the ending.
Man, okay. Now I got a bunch of questions. Well, okay, I'm sorry. I was thinking about like this year in total, right? And I for some reason went back to like the Men's Health article that came out a couple months ago, where they asked 50 different comic creators what's their favorite comic or their favorite series, how they their recommendations, and a lot of these recommendations were like self-contained graphic novels, by Charles Byrne or Daniel Clowes and things like that, and it got me thinking. I guess do you see? Does Gotham skew one way or the other when it comes to floppy selling more than say trades or graphic novels and collected editions, or are they on par?
Well, we're a little bit different than maybe every single shop you'll ever walk into. In fact, I've never walked in another comic shop where they have offered hardcover, trade paperback, and omnibuses at 35% off all the time. And that came about in a weird way. When I first started this place, the reality is that people have the internet with them everywhere they go, and it's super easy to go online and be like, hey, look, this guy with no overhead is selling these books at 30% off right now. Will you match this, Ben? Of course I will. You can't say no and own an in-shop like a brick and mortar store. So we just decided to implement it all the time. Like our sale in December right now, it's 35% off books all the time here. So we have hardcore collectors. Hardcover books and omnibuses are as collectible as comics. They're only printed one time.
Yep.
And so for that aspect, I have people that drive over from Tallahassee once a month and buy thousands of dollars worth of hardcover books from us.
Wow.
We stack them up for this guy, Jason. And then every week he'll send us Facebook messages, pictures of like 10 more books he wants. And we'll stack them up in the back. And then he'll come in one Saturday from Tallahassee, buy them all. And, and he has a local comic shop in Tallahassee, but they're not willing to give him this deal.
Interesting. Wow.
And
so it's worth the gas and all that.
Yeah,
Huh?
so in terms of that, floppies still sell better than independent. But remember in the 90s, they never put out 6 issues of a floppy a month after 6 issues of a floppy just came out.
Yeah.
Much like old VHS used to take years. Used to take years for you to get a story. Not anymore. That floppy is available. So if you want to catch somebody up, hey, we're on Transformers 13, but ooh, look at this sweet Gotham City Limit exclusive Transformer trade paperback by Daniel Warren Johnson. You get the first 6 issues there. Then we search through the box, find the other 7 for you, and you're off and running. So I think in terms of that stuff, we actually love all of it. Hardcovers, trade paperbacks, omnibuses, and then floppies as well. We don't discriminate. Whatever you want, we're going to get it for you.
What would you say is the hardest thing you have a hard time like moving or selling?
Funko Pops. That's why you don't even see them in here anymore because
it just dawned on me. You used to have a wall of Funko Pops.
And look what it's morphed into. The stuff that sells.
Statues
Anime and manga and One Piece figures
really
and
has
statues.
fallen off, huh?
Well, it's not that. The very exclusive ones are still highly sought after. The problem was like anything.
Oversaturation.
In the 90s is like Beanie Babies all over again. You make, even today on FOC ordering, which I do every single week, final order cut off for the week, there's like must have been 55 new Funko Pops they're putting out. I'm like, who is buying 6 of each one of these? Like, it's everything you could think of.
Yeah.
Legend NFL players, new NFL players, every TV show you've ever heard of. So I think that right there is probably something that we just kind of moved away from. And then in terms of since COVID, action figures are still highly collectible. They're just really hard to keep in Walmart, Target. They literally get stuff now before some of the smaller shops, and that was never the case before.
Ben,
Can
I proudly say that there's been a few times I've gone to a Target and temptation has almost gotten me. I've seen a figure, I'm like, I haven't seen this at Gotham yet. Do I buy it here?
Right, because they
And
might
I pull
have
back
it. Jonathan will do that all the time.
Oh,
Jonathan,
wow.
I'm watching you,
Jonathan.
Jonathan.
Shame.
Exactly. He doesn't know. He doesn't know I have a secret camera in this cool Scully cap. I saw you, Jonathan, buy all that Raphael TMNT stuff.
Just like last time we recorded, I think Jonathan was in the background.
He was. Yeah, Jonathan is actually doing work.
Overworking him, Ben.
Can
Let
I
this
tell
man
you?
go home,
Can I just
Ben?
tell you the smartest thing I did this year? I spent $46 and made Jonathan 750 general manager business cards, and now this motherfucker beats me here every day. All right, this is the best $46 I ever spent, Jonathan.
I don't know whether to applaud that, bro,
Yeah,
or call some help for Jonathan. I might call 911.
He's still laughing, okay? And he got married this year, so congratulations, Jonathan.
Big ups
You
to
too,
Jonathan.
Botter. Congratulations,
Me and
my
Jonathan went
friend.
And you know, we overcame our comic book commitment issues.
You know, we were talking about
Hit it.
Ultimates real quick, and I do want to bring up one point before we move. Ultimate Black Panther is my favorite. Of all the Ultimates. Ultimate Spider-Man is amazing. Ultimates is amazing. But Ultimate Black Panther, for whatever reason, the way they reimagine Killmonger, Storm, the way they're using Black Panther, the way they're using the gods from Egypt as Moon Knight, like it was just a really cool new way take on. And then I realized I went back to look at the writer because I was like, wait, who wrote it? Brian Hill. And then I found out, man, he's writing my favorite new Blade Red Band comic that's going on right now. And he might be my favorite author that I don't really know that much about. Jonathan, what was the other title you telling me he wrote?
Chariot.
Oh, yeah, AWA Studios, Chariot. It was like a modern Knight Rider comic where the car had AI and was alive. And it was probably the best of the AWA Studios comics, which... Speaking of, we haven't heard from AWA in a while. We're not really sure what's happening with that company in terms of like producing comics still. But yeah, amazing writer, awesome stuff. So if you ever have a chance to go grab anything that he's writing, or you want the new Blade that's coming out right now, the Red Band, they've done 2 issues of, highly recommend.
Okay, on the topic of AWA and just thinking like publishers, if you could give an award to one publisher for being just overall great this year, I'm talking in terms of the comics they're putting out, but also maybe the way they do business and books, like just holistically, what publisher are you giving like the best of your award?
Okay, well, Image Ghost Machine comics are the best written and then cardstock comic books that are out there. So I give credit to DC for making their variant covers all cardstock, because there's a real disconnect between the companies that make comic books and then all the way trickle down past the distributor, past the retailer to the consumer, where they blame us for the condition of the comic. And the reality is there's paper shortages. They print on this crappy paper. The cover is the same material as the interior, and you're shipping it UPS ground. I mean, how are these things ever going to get here in a perfect condition? So companies, and then they do it with their Spawn books. Image still does, where they make them this hard card stock for $2.99. And then Marvel, even if DC still puts out a floppy, the standard $3.99 cheap floppy, but if everything else is card stock, if Marvel moved to card stock, I mean, we're already charging $4.99 a comic. So I really wish that these companies would all switch to a card stock cover. It would make selling comics much easier. Damage wise, shipping make them much easier. They can withstand more. They're just better quality. So I definitely, in terms of putting out a product that resonates with people, Image Comics really does make a quality comic book for the price. But again, I give Boom Studios a lot of credit because somehow they have captured the new #1 market, and they really are. If Boom Studios puts out a new #1, everyone is buying that. But that cardstock comic cover is like so key. It changes everything.
I agree. There's something about picking up a book that's got
You
like
feel like, okay, I'm paying
Exactly.
$4.99 for this. I'm
Exactly.
totally fine
Make
with
it
that.
worthwhile.
You know, speaking of, I will give DC a lot of credit. I love foils. Okay, so they have been pumping out the foil cover.
That they have.
And then polybags are back, Botter. So they're doing polybag. What was the first Blood Hunt polybag
Yep.
they did? Okay, Blood Hunt, the whole point of Blood Hunt was just so that Doctor Doom could be Sorcerer Supreme. The story fell on its face at the end. But like most Marvel stories, they have to keep them going, so you can't really have an ending. But Blood Hunt, the first one, the polybagged, I mean, I could have bought 1,000 of those, and those things would have all sold out. It was hot fire. A lot like Absolute Batman #1 or Absolute Wonder Woman #1 or any of those.
You know, the last poly bag I bought was I think last week I ended up picking up the DC Christmas special
Yep. With scented one.
with a scent.
Did you open it?
No, because
Okay, no one knows what the scent is because no one will open it. So I just been telling everybody it's peppermint.
Well, Chloe sold me on it because I'm like, what's the deal with these? She's like, oh, every single one is a different scent. One might be cinnamon bread or ginger cookie. The other one might be peppermint.
No one knows if any of that's the truth,
And I
though,
bought it
Botter.
with the intention of like hopefully getting gingerbread scent, but that's the problem with polybags.
Yeah.
Me and polybags, I'm like, well, I can't open this.
No,
you
as
know?
soon as you do it, it's worthless.
I
It's
know.
like anything else. It's
a
so
double-edged
crazy how
sword.
that works. I mean, people still bring in cable with #1 with the card in the poly bag. You know, you get those. I was talking to Jonathan earlier, and my prediction for 2025 is that we get the holographic cards on the front of covers again.
Oh,
Remember,
wow.
you
It
used
is
to
all
do that in the
cyclical.
90s
Yeah.
where they did it. And you know those are coming back. There's zero chance they're not going to. I mean, Amazing Spider-Man 1000 is technically not 2025. It's about 44 more issues, so we were doing the math. It's about 14 months away, so that puts us January, February 2026. But Amazing Spider-Man 1000 might have the most comic book covers of any comic in the history of comics. That's my prediction for that.
That
I know
is
Gotham City Limit is going to try to employ Tyler Kirkham to do one.
There we go.
Shit.
Tyler Kirkham, aka the fourth member, the
Oh,
unofficial
yeah,
fourth
man,
member.
but yeah, speaking of Tyler's the
fifth
best.
Beatle, the
And he
fifth
literally
Beatle.
is just an amazing guy. We just sent him a bunch of comics to get signed. He's such a cool dude. Texting me about just random things. He loves the industry. He literally loves making artwork for it.
He's got
And
the
so
dream job.
having somebody who's passionate about it, who's willing to make cool stuff for us, is a dream come true.
No, I mean that's one hell of a fifth man to have on the team, which got me thinking because you actually had Tyler Kirkham come out to the shop, do a signing. I think I was out of town or something. I missed it. I hated that I had to miss it, but I wanted to know out of what have you done differently this year, and what are some of the standouts when you think about like just different events or different ways to promote the shop and get people in here. I mean, I'm thinking, Free Comic Book Day was a great turnout. The Black Friday sale, Tyler Kirkham. What's been your favorite, new thing you've tried out?
This year, having Tyler Kirkham at the shop was like one of the coolest things that we've ever done. It was incredibly busy, but it wasn't even about, again, making money. It was just such an awesome event to be able to take this tiny little shop that we started, and then, you know what my proudest moment of that entire event was? Clearing this place out enough to have wraparound lines for the entire event, but nobody had to be outside in the Florida heat because, in June it was unbelievable outside. So just being able to get this place ready to go, having Tyler here was fantastic. We've taken another step in terms of, we do exclusive comics, and people always ask, what's the next one you're going to do, Ben? But I don't look at it like that. I literally just look for cool opportunities, whether it's the Geiger hardcover book that we did with the new Ghost Machine, the Transformer. We did a trade paperback book. Like, that's so cool to me, not just doing a comic. But then doing Destro, Tyler Kirkham's for the new G.I. Joe. The very first comics I ever got, I was 6 years old in the hospital dealing with blood poisoning issue, and my mother got me a GI Joe and a Transformer comic. So just the fact that we did 5 Destro exclusive covers, Destros 2, 3, 4, and 5 were the only place in the entire world that did a retailer exclusive for the last 4 issues of that 5-part miniseries. So if you collect all of it, you literally all have to do is buy the regular covers, the incentives, and the Gotham City Limit retailer exclusive, and you own all the Destro covers 2 through 5. Then we did that Cobra Commander with Tyler for G.I. Joe 1, and now we have the entire Cobra team. And the very first comic I ever got was a G.I. Joe comic,
That's cool.
and now 45 years old, I get to make G.I. Joe comics. It's literally the coolest shit ever. So, been the best year ever, man. We are just, and hopefully we'll just find some more, because I don't even know specifically what I'm going to do in 2025 past, we had that first Coast Con here in July last year, and that was a huge success. I'm currently in talks about becoming the major sponsor for that thing.
As you should.
Because that's what we do is new comics. And then who knows where we can grow that Comic-Con to be, hopefully to rival some others. It's going to take years of preparation and work.
And I think that's the logical next step is for Gotham to be the, spearheading the next biggest comic convention.
Jacksonville should have something. When we had Tyler Kirkham here, we had people from all over Florida drive all over up here to the city just to come and check out the shop. Never been here before, just to meet Tyler. And, Jonathan and I, we travel all the time to go to other shows in Florida and close on the Panhandle. So having an opportunity to create something in Jacksonville is 100% a goal.
On that topic, what has a comic shop been what's your favorite comic shop that isn't Gotham? Like when you think about shops that you visited and maybe like, looked at and like, oh, I kind of want to implement that, or I like the way they do this. Like what is a shop or two that comes to mind that has really impressed you from one shop owner to another? Or even just from like a fan perspective.
Yeah, no, Third Eye Comics in Maryland. I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
I've been to the one in New York.
Okay,
so
yeah. They have a main one right outside Annapolis, Maryland. And that was probably the inspiration for mostly what I do here. And what I mean by that is they were like the friendliest, nicest people when I walked in the place of any comic shop that I've ever been in. And, we just added another guy to Ultimate Spider-Man and Amazing Spider-Man, and literally the reason he has a pull here now is because he was trying to collect the last 50 issues of Amazing Spider-Man, and he would go into shops and they would kind of be like, it's in the box over there, and he came in here and we dug out all the issues from the back and we hooked him up and we told him what it is. Oh, this volume's different than that one, and oh, you need to get this, and here's that cover. And he was like, I just got to tell you, that is the best experience. That's like, I didn't get that anywhere else, every other place I went. And so that's what I got from Third Eye when I went there. They treated me, and one of the reasons I started this place is because I love the old shop down the street, but they just didn't really seem to have the personality that should come along with retail. And in this business, if you don't fucking love it, get out. Still good?
Yeah. Every now and then I have this fear gripping
that it wasn't
that I did not press record, and something that you got to triple
were like,
check.
Oh, did we just lose out on an hour of that sparkling face? I put Vaseline on, so I was youthful today. Makeup.
Okay, Ben. All right, but before we get to actually, we've crossed off a lot of the questions I had for you, but I decided to do something a little different with this episode because you are known for submitting some great questions when it comes to the interviews I do. I mean, you managed to stump Jason Aaron earlier this year. Yeah, you had a one.
Don't you fucking patronize me, Botter? All right.
You had one.
It was the worst question ever, Jonathan. Okay, I can't hit a home run every time.
I think that's what he said on there. He's like, "This is the worst question I've ever been asked, but I'm gonna."
There was some other question I had originally, but then it didn't work or something, and then I was last minute.
My point is that
Excuses.
I've interviewed Kelly Thompson this year. You had a great question for her. Scott Snyder most recently. You always have great questions for my guests, and I decided to turn the tables on you.
Oh,
and
no.
I asked a few loyal listeners to submit some questions, and I just put a call out. Hey, I'm interviewing one of the best comic shop owners in the game. What do you want to know
awesome.
about him? So I got a few questions, and some of these names that you're familiar with. First and foremost, Let's go with this question from my guy, Drew. All right. Drew had a question for you. He wants to know your thoughts on variant covers and the growth in popularity and oversaturation of them in the direct market today and throughout the years. Do you see variant covers getting better or worse next year?
I
And I guess overall, just what are your thoughts on
Okay, well,
variant covers?
okay, it depends, and we were talking about this earlier before we started. It depends on what the goal is of the publisher. And sometimes I am very confused as if the publisher of some comics, Marvel and DC, care about actually selling good comic books, or if they just care about the print number before it goes out, and then once it's in shops, they could give a shit. And that is my humble opinion, and that's where they are mentally. So the variant covers with the different artists give them the ability to hit higher numbers. Like TMNT had 300,000, right? But there must have been 60 plus retailer exclusives for TMNT #1. Each one of those minimum 1,000 print run. So now you're talking right there, just alone, that's 65,000 of that 300,000 number, right? Then you had your A cover, and then you had a Kevin Eastman variant, you had a C cover, a Gonzo, a D cover, and an E cover for all of them. So I think the variants literally exist so that the publisher can see a higher print number when it first comes out. I see it eventually going back to where it came from, which is 1 or 2 variants. They definitely oversaturate the market. There is no doubt about it. The artwork's amazing, but Jonathan and I saw something just a couple weeks ago that I don't think I've seen before. David Nakayama had 2 variants on the same book. A Harley Quinn comic. He had 2 variants of the same issue of Harley Quinn, and I don't think I've ever seen an artist have 2 variants on the same book. So yeah, 100% they're oversaturated, but, and I only say but when whatever I said before that was a lie, so but, fuck, are they so cool, and they make so many awesome books, and I buy them just based on the artwork all the time. In fact, we all have picks of the week for reading, and then we have variant picks of the week where I literally say, who cares what this book's about? You should own it just for this sweet
Sometimes
art.
it's nice just to have a piece of art.
Yeah.
For affordable, you know?
Yeah, so that's, are the variants out of control? 100%. Before COVID, DC made an A cover and a B cover, didn't even do an incentive variant. And then it's all spawned out of the last 4 years to try to jumpstart the comic industry. And while it is awesome and I love it, and they really do make some amazing things, a majority of the Marvel and DC comics I buy are just for the cover and not for the story.
Interesting. If you had to list off, like, who are some sure shots when it comes to, hey, if this guy or this person is doing the art for this variant
Number
cover,
one
it's
this
moving.
year,
Yeah, it's
number
like
one, Scotty Young. Hands down. We were talking about this earlier. I love Alex Ross, and he crushed it when he did his timeless variants, and then when he did that X-Men homage, the 4-part series. So he's very popular when his stuff comes out, but Scotty Young is the most popular variant artist there is right now. It doesn't matter what book he does. Currently, The Amazing Spider-Man is in the 8 Deaths of Spider-Man, and he's doing a cover for each issue where it's like killing the spider.
Yeah.
And we get 40 to 50 copies of it and sell out every single week it comes out. But J. Scott Campbell, incredibly popular. Todd McFarlane, incredibly popular.
Todd McFarlane is still doing variant covers?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Knights of Samurai. He'll do random covers for image books.
Interesting.
Oh, yeah. But whenever he does a variant, we get a lot of people who want to collect that one specifically.
I guess not to like be disrespectful. It's like, I guess those are just names that are, I guess, synonymous, right? Like they're kind of like the old guard.
Yeah, but those are still the kind of But no, I mean new.
Yeah,
like
in terms of
Kendrick Kunka Lim, he seems to be incredibly popular. Art Germ.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Lyrics. David Nakayama.
I think I have two pain points when it comes to variants. For one, sometimes it messes me up in terms of like, did I already get this issue?
Yep.
Because it looks different, because sometimes I don't pay attention to the issue number. I should do a better job of that. But like, I can tell you, like this year, I've definitely picked up multiple copies of a book because the variants look like they're a completely different book or the next issue.
Yep.
And then I think the other point is you're naming like that first name you said, I'm like, there's so many artists that do variant covers. It's a little disappointing sometimes when they aren't also doing the interiors or
Right.
the series themselves. Like you know what I'm
Well, I
saying?
mean, that's my whole experience in the 80s and 90s. Just pick up a cool comic book in the interior. I was like, what the fuck is
guess
this?
it has
It's not
been a
even
problem for a
matching
long
it.
time.
So
That's fair.
it happens with us with a lot of times. A kid will pick up a comic and be like, oh, is the Disney character in it? And I'm like, no, that's just a Hulk comic. Nothing fucking do with Goofy on the front.
Well,
but that's
I guess
what we
some
got
of them
going
are
on.
like exclusively variant cover artists. Like they
Right.
have never
No,
done
and that's just what
interiors.
they do. I mean, Nathan Sursdy was a tattoo artist now who became very popular kind of on the secondary market. I mean, there's so many cool ones though. Greg Land is very popular, but some old not old names but who have reemerged in 2024. Dan Mora is a Alien. Okay, he not only does all these covers, but he's doing all the interiors for multiple books at the same time. And then Dan Panosian must be an alien too because his artwork is everywhere. And his Captain America Doctor Doom variant, where Doom is sitting in the throne with a half-broken, bloody Captain America shield in the front. They were doing these Doom variants for across all the covers. Is my comic cover of the year from last year. It is phenomenal. It's Doom and a throne, the bloody Captain America shield. But Panosian, I mean, Vicarious all the way through all the Marvel and DC stuff he's been doing. He does a bunch of independent comics. Ivan Tao is very popular, independent writer. Alan Quah we've worked with before. He's fantastic. And then my man, the myth, the legend, Tyler Kirkham. I mean, that G.I. Joe Cobra is so good. I mean, a foil Cobra. Get out of here.
All right, moving on to the next question. I think this one comes from our guy T-Mix. He didn't sign out like he normally does, so I apologize if I got this wrong, but someone sent in some fan mail, and they want to know. This is a two-part question because we can't talk about Ben without mentioning Pacer, the amazing shop dog, who, if you've been watching the video version, you can see him kind of rolling
he's
around
laying
with
down
us
now,
today.
buddy.
He's hanging out with
walking
us.
around.
Without mentioning the Pacer, the shop dog. First part, what made you pick Pacer out of all the other dogs? Second part, what is your must-read pick from this year?
Okay, so firstly, I went to Jacksonville Humane Society. I was always I loved Iditarods when I was younger, and I loved Huskies for some reason. And so I would watch them on TV, and I was always going to own a Husky named Pacer. That was the idea. And then 14 years ago, when I decided I was actually going to get a dog, I was like, I don't have $2,000 to pay for a Husky breed. And then although I know people that have Huskies in Florida, and I wholly am fine with it, it's not really the best temperature for a Husky to live in. And I was like, man, we can go get a dog from the Humane Society. So this true story, 2 cages back next to each other. One dog had like a big black eye, and I pulled him out, and I was hanging out with him. He was sitting on my lap, and then the woman who worked at the place was like, "Oh, we have a hold on that puppy because they have until tomorrow to come back and get him." And I was like, "That's fine." I put him in, and I pulled Pacer out of the crate. He sat on my lap. And I was like, well, hey, Pacer, how's it going? And we walked into the office, and 4 hours later, Pacer came home with me. So it was, and I have pictures of it. That's the best part about iPhones and the worst part is that every picture you've ever taken for the last 14 years is on there. So
the cloud somewhere is waiting to be leaked.
It's out there, but I have literal pictures of the day, August 12th, 2011, when I picked Pacer up, 4:44 p.m.
Wow.
Time stamped. But that's how I ended up with Pacer, amazing shop dog, and he literally just started by coming up here on Wednesdays with me.
I remember that. He was
I didn't bring him
Wednesday
every
exclusive.
single day, and then people were just upset they didn't get to see him, and I was like, why am I not bringing my dog here every single day? And now he comes here. He's the dog of the year. He's almost 14 years old. People remind me all the time they're just here to see him. So it's awesome.
Move, Ben. Get
Yeah,
out the
they
way.
literally, is the dog here on?
I brought lobster for him.
Actually, this is a true story. Somebody came in here. I'm usually off on Saturdays now. Somebody came in here on Saturday, and they said to me, oh, I thought Jonathan would be here and not you. That's literally what they said to my face.
Ow.
I was like, dang, dude. Ouch. But what can I do for you? Then he said, I'm looking for this comic, and I fucking found that comic, dude. All right.
you were
I
like,
said,
Jonathan
Jonathan
wouldn't
couldn't
have
have
found
found that for you, all right?
Wait, all right, so I got to ask really quick before you answer part 2. Has Pacer always been this chill?
Always. He's always
Really?
just followed me around.
As I pulled up today, I said, I don't think I've ever heard Pacer bark.
He barks at TV animals, so
wow,
he
okay. You
literally
got beef?
watches TV. So anybody who tells you dogs don't watch TV is a liar, because it doesn't need to be volume on. It can just be the screen he sees and reacts to animals on the TV. And then occasionally, if somebody is overwhelming with the scent of dogs, he'll occasionally bark at the beginning if he doesn't hear you or anything. But he's always been he's literally was born and bred to be a shop dog. That's what I truly believe. And
think so.
God put him on my path, and somehow we turned him into this amazing shop dog. But I have a second dog, and I call her Prisoner 7718 because that's my address. Because she doesn't leave. She gets a couple square meals a day. She gets a little fenced-in backyard time. That's it. You ain't going anywhere else, Prisoner 7718.
Stop.
Yeah,
That's too funny.
it's a true story. But yeah, Pacer's the best. He follows me everywhere I
Pacer
go.
all
He
day.
doesn't care at all.
All right, and then the second part of that question was, what is your must-read pick from this year?
Okay, well, Rook from Ghost Machine is so good. Jeff Johns, obviously Geiger, I highly recommend. And then I brought it up earlier. Standstill is a huge one. But then I go back to this thing. I've been talking to some other people and a couple other another gentleman here, Jared, who was in here earlier in the shop, and he gets a lot of eclectic stuff. Magma Comics, a really tiny independent one.
Very small.
Put out 3 really cool comics when they first came out. Principles of Necromancy for you fucked up people. If you want to go on a journey that'll take you somewhere else,
Yeah.
Principles of Necromancy is for you. Scale Trade was awesome because it was like kind of like the ivory sale of elephant tusks, but dealing with dragon scales. And so it was a cool story. And then the other one, Silicon Bandits. Those were the 3 that they put out originally. They have a couple others going on now, but those are really cool. And then Standstill, like I said, from Image Comics, I would highly recommend in terms of picking up the first couple issues and jumping in. Blade Red Band is one of my favorite new ones. They're all polybagged, and that's one of the only ones I collect because obviously some comics, don't tell anybody, but I take home and read and bring them back in here. You know what I mean? So, but those polybags, I got to be committed if I'm going to read that motherfucker. Am I buying it or not?
Ben, I feel like you know how lately there's this this thing where you can buy whatever Ed Brubaker's red version of this book, and you're like, why would I ever buy that? Ben, I feel like you could probably capitalize on that if you were to have a little section titled Ben's Reads, pre-owned by Ben.
Okay, well, I'm glad you brought that up because I've always had an idea of having reader copies and having, when I get into when I grow in some facility, because we're never going to stop growing here, that's the reality. Man, wouldn't it be cool if you paid let's just throw a number out there, $30 a month, and then I had reader copies, and you could just come in and hang out in the shop, have some lazy boys, and spend an hour in here just reading, have a section. Obviously, it would have to be bigger. This place isn't big enough to do all that, but that's 100%. I love that idea. I got some people who bring me back comics after they read them, and then I hook them up. I don't give them much because I'm cheap, but I give, but I give them a little store credit. Yeah, like, oh, you want to sell me your comics? As long as it's a good price.
That's fair.
But yeah, that would be awesome. I mean, that's the coolest thing. I mean, that is 100% what I've done different this year than I've done any single year I've owned a comic shop, and that is every single week power through 20 to 30 comics. Literally every single day. It's amazing, though. It's made my mornings so great. I wake up, I got the percolator with espresso already ready to rock, turn on the oven, let the dogs out, pour the espresso, sit down, and for an hour, just power through some amazing comics. You'll see it occasionally on my social media where I take pictures with my coffee mug in the background. But that's what I do every morning, and what a great way to wake up every day.
Ben, that puts you on the conservative side, about 1,000 comic books every year. On the high end, 1,500 comics every year.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what else it does. It forces me to talk to Jonathan about them because I'm like, Jonathan, wait, what happened in that book? I mean, listen, I don't know if this happens to you, but this happens to me specifically with Marvel Comics. I read a Marvel comic. A month later, if they didn't have that synopsis, I would have no fucking idea what's going on. You know what I mean? If they didn't, and I'm like,
agree.
I just read your last comic and I don't know what's happening.
I forgot what episode it was, but I asked you, if there's one thing you could change, and you had mentioned like more comics should have
to
that
put in the
one synopsis page.
Yes.
Ever since I've heard that, I wish that was a thing.
No, and they still
Missed
only
opportunity.
Marvel and DC do it. Image Comics, Stand Still, amazing comic, but I had to get more number ones in. I think we went second print route because they did a second print on the first issue. It was pretty popular. But you don't have anything that I can just get people jumping on. Even TMNT, okay, that's brand new. I am out of number one. I don't have any more number ones. We sold all 259 copies of every cover we had.
Wow.
The fourth one just came out. But now, if I don't have number one, I had to sell somebody a retailer exclusive for cheap today so they get the first issue just to read.
Yeah.
2, 3, and 4, to get the whole set. But if 2 had a synopsis in it, said, hey, this is what happened in the first issue with Raphael, then you could pick up 2, 3, and 4, and then just go on the hunt and find a one when you could find it.
Look, Ben, if more publishers listen to you.
Okay, so let's talk about publishers listening to me, because I got a little something for a publisher here. Distillery. Okay, real quick, my 2 minutes. Distillery is awesome. Distillery makes amazing comics with great stories and badass art, but they make magazines, and it's killing their business. They have switched to just Diamond exclusive. They re-FOC things. And I am not hating on Distillery Comics. I am hating on the magazine format because American comic book collectors aren't magazine collectors. Magazine collectors collect Sports Illustrated and Playboy and old Savage Sword of Conan. And you know what I mean? Like this is what magazine collectors collect. Comic book collectors do not collect magazines. And so Distillery, if anybody who's ever worked for Distillery is going to listen to this, The Limit loves you, but we would love if you just made a trade, a regular American size comic book, and then printed your story in your oversized format in a hardcover book. You would wipe the floor with some of these new titles. The best writers and the best names, and people won't give it a shot because they all have the same thing. I don't have anywhere to put them. And no one wants to buy a magazine box, just magazine comics. That's not, we just want a magazine. We want to put our comics in a box that we won't look at for the next 15 years. And that's what we need out of you, Distillery. Okay?
I guess I'm one of the outliers because I don't mind a good magazine, but I do agree. I do feel, comic fans are fickle and very, I think they stick to what they know.
But you can't even ship them the same way. They're
Yeah.
it's just a whole nother thing. You bag and board for them. I know I sound like I'm complaining, but I do love Distillery. I just want regular floppy
I think
comics.
that's a fair suggestion. All right, moving on. Our next question comes from our good friend Bobo Griffin, and he wants to know, what has been your favorite memory from the last 5 years of the shop? Now, I got to really quick before you answer that. Ben, have you been in business for 5 years? Am I correct, or is that more?
No.
6?
January 2nd will be 7 completed years.
Then I misspoke on socials.
So we're right
7.
smack. We're not to our 7th completed year yet, but we're right dab in between our 6th and 7th year. Man, that's a tough one, but it's still going to be one memory that I think I'll have for the rest of my life. And that was the very first year I opened this place. Had no idea about comics. I remember somebody came in to buy bags and boards from me, and the old shop sold bags and boards for like 20 cents or 25 cents a piece, and I didn't individually. Yeah. And I was selling 100 pack to somebody, but I hadn't even put it in inventory. It was like the first week I was open. Not, like I said, I didn't really even know what I was doing in the comic industry. And I quoted the guy the wrong price, and he kind of made fun of me to my face, like, oh, well, there's no way it costs that much. And then I, went through, and I actually ended up losing that poll customer. He went to another comic shop, and I remember that memory. But that early beginning part of my career here, I was a little rocky on whether or not I should even own a comic shop. I didn't really know how ordering went. I knew I loved to collect comics, but I didn't know the industry. I didn't really even understand grading comics. I mean, I understood it, but not really to the point I do now. And I got nominated because of all the awesome people that come in this place. Every award we've ever won is because the people who come in here go online and vote for us. It has really nothing to do with us and more with the awesome people who come here. But we got nominated for Best New Business with the Florida Times Union that first year I was open. And that August of the following of my first year, they had it at the Florida Theater. They rented it out. I was single at the time, so I didn't have a significant other. I was literally running this shop by myself. I had no other employees. I used to just close on Monday so I could have one day off. And we won Best New Business. And I screeched out. I was by myself in this theater, and I screeched out, and I ran up on stage, and I had my Spider-Man jacket on, and I was holding my plaque, Best 2018, and that memory's still on social media. And that's still my favorite memory of running this place, because that was the night I decided that I made the right decision to own a comic shop.
That's awesome.
And so that was like the mental motivation I needed to grind. And now, here we are 7 years later, and we're still grinding. Mondays, working all the time. And but that's why you do this. You don't do this to hire a bunch of other people to do the work for you. You do it because you actually want to be here. But that's my favorite memory of anything that's happened to me in this place. And then my second favorite memory was convincing Jonathan that he actually wanted to work here. It took me like 2 fucking years. You know what I mean?
Man.
I should have bought him a scooter or something a year and a half ago. I could have got him a $2,000 scooter, and I could have saved his soul for a year. But yeah,
those are great memories.
Yeah,
man.
those are
awesome.
Yeah, but that's probably it for me.
And that guy that chastised you for the bags and boards, he no longer has a comic shop.
No, yeah, I promise that's probably the truth,
Yeah.
So but that's
Okay.
probably my favorite memory.
That's a good
And then my other favorite memory, I'm just going to throw this secondary one in there because I like to talk, was when Tyler Kirkham came here. It's on my social media. 2 different things. Him declaring that I said, "Hey, Tyler, what'd you do today?" I took it to the limit. So fucking cool. I'll never get over that. And then I was recording when Tyler pulled up and all the people were in here. People started loading up this shop at like 8 in the morning. He didn't get here till 11. And then when he pulled up, I was recording. I walked in and I said, "Hey, Jacksonville, Tyler Kirkham," and the whole place went crazy. And that's a really cool video to watch because that just is another thing that could have never happened if we just decided as a group that we were going to keep doing this thing.
Those are awesome memories. All right, moving on. We got another question from my good friend Chris Hacker from the Oblivion Bar podcast. He wants to know, Ben, what are Ben's thoughts on Marvel and their recent 6 to 8 months slate of titles?
Okay, so we talked about this a little earlier. I talked about it. Sometimes I'm not sure who Marvel's trying to sell a comic to. I have seen a natural growth, though, in Marvel, specifically that they have just started over the last 6 months writing comics for adults. That the majority of the stuff, the Red Band, the adult stories, because that's the reality. The reality is you shouldn't write a comic to get in a 16-year-old's world. You should write a badass adult story that a 16-year-old will love to read. And that's what I've seen them do more recently, especially with the Red Band stuff, but just in general across all their titles, they have really taken it to a next level, and they're writing mini TV shows inside their comics, and that's been the best part of what Marvel has transitioned into. They have a few titles, NYX and a few other things that I feel like they just make so that they can say, "Hey, equal representation.
Yeah.
We made these comics and we did this." But in general, I've been very impressed with the adult storylines and the actual TV episodes that the comics feel like, as opposed to where back in the day you were kind of telling individual stories in each comic, and right now it is kind of this played out 4, 6 issue kind of mini TV series.
Do you find the one and done stories sell better or might be easier to sell than say a multi-part story?
It depends on what it is. I think miniseries sell way better. People are much more willing to say, "Oh, is this 6 parts?
Something
Sign me up."
digestible. Okay.
All the time. In fact, when they don't tell us how many issues it is, and we're just kind of like, "I don't know," that's when it makes it a little bit harder. So clear cut kind of what you're doing, smaller stories, and then occasionally a one-shot works. It's Jeff, that shark, is
Mhm.
so popular. It doesn't matter. They put him in Venom War. They just make a random comic that has nothing, and they sell out of the character every single time. So, there's some random stuff like that. But
Okay. All right. One last question from the audience. All right. This one comes from Walt, Big Walt, chiming in here. Are there independent books early in their run or coming in the next few months I should check for?
okay. Independent books coming on the run. What was the new Jeff Lemire title I was talking about earlier, Jonathan? Hold on one second. I'm gonna look it up while we fill some time. Because there was a brand new one that he was about to do. Oh no, he was doing the Ultimate Wolverine, right?
I don't think that's Jeff Lemire. I
No.
think Jeff Lemire's doing JSA and Arcane Fire.
Oh well, he does the Minor Arcana, and then he does a bunch of other stuff. I thought I had written down, maybe not. Absolute Flash. Yes,
Oh,
yes. Thank you, Ben, for writing your own note and then forgetting for 15 seconds. Sorry, podcast listeners. But now I remember the whole reason I wrote Absolute Flash, because if there's one character in DC that is just impossible to read right now, it is the Flash. Even with their all new, all in storylines where they're starting brand new story arcs, nothing is more confusing than the Flash universe. None of the characters are on any timelines. Everybody's from the future or from before. It's just so convoluted that I literally read the brand new issue of The Flash. And then in the 90s, if you had asked me, I would have told you The Flash was my favorite DC character. And now I just buy occasional Flash variant covers because they're cool.
Yeah.
But the comic itself hasn't been good for years, in my humble opinion. And so the Absolute Flash, and it's being written by Jeff Lemire, is something, I know it's not independent, but that I can't wait for. And then in terms of what they grow the Ghost Machine universe with, I would say anything Image titles, Ghost Machine related. They started the horror stuff, the Hyde Street, and some of the other titles, the Rocket Fellers. But that whole little mini universe is amazing, fantastic, and you can't go wrong.
Well said. Yeah, kind of on a similar note, when we recorded last, it was, I think, either the Deadpool Wolverine movie was coming out or hadn't come out. It was one of those two. It was like very close up to
Right.
that movie. So I want to know, thinking holistically, this past year and knowing the power of like comic book media on, say, TV or movies and kind of like comic book related things and how that can sometimes drive traffic to the shop and new people coming into a comic shop. Is there anything that came out movie wise, TV show wise, that you definitely saw an increase in like foot traffic? Like for example, like did the Penguin show bring someone looking for Penguin comics?
Yes, well, people that were in that saw that there was a Penguin story, which is actually phenomenal by Tom King, was just a great story. And Penguin, the TV show, is phenomenal. I watched that. In terms of bringing people into the shop, it's actually it's the ones you wouldn't think about. It's Transformers 1. That animated movie they just did recently.
Yeah, that we're just doing.
Sonic the Hedgehog, Super Mario Brothers. Like,
Wow.
these movies actually drive a whole new group of people into a comic shop that had never been. Godzilla. Woo!
I guess
Godzilla drives people in here.
But what are they looking for? Are they looking for
That
a
stuff.
comic or
No,
just anything? Collectibles,
Oh
toys,
yeah,
all
I mean,
that?
and that's how it works. But a lot of times, whether you're a Mario Brother or Super Mario Brothers fan, well, they make younger stories for them. Kind of collected edition books that they do for them. They don't necessarily have that. But then while they're here, they just made an I Like Popeye.
the manga kind of style.
Which has been the artwork inside
It is crisp.
phenomenal. It's a reader too, but that kind of stuff, it naturally leads them down some other paths. But yes, when Transformers, like that one movie, that brings kids in who want to read Transformers, that want to collect comics, that just kind of want to, we just wanted to see what this shop was all about, because from the outside, man, it's painted on the outside. It is a hidden room in here. You wouldn't even know what was going on from from the outside. So those animated movies have really driven a lot of people in. And then, yes, Wolverine and Deadpool, the movie itself. Let me tell you what a disconnect there is between Marvel and their comics, because the year that they released Deadpool and Wolverine in the movie theaters, you think all you would do is produce a bunch of really cool Deadpool comics to go along with the Wolverine ones they do. And what they did in Deadpool was kill off Wade Wilson and make his daughter Deadpool, which was cool for one issue. And now I'm hemorrhaging buyers because everybody wants Deadpool, not his fucking daughter. So that's actually something that happened this year. True story.
So Marvel did not release any new Deadpool #1s?
No, so they didn't.
What about on the Wolverine
No,
side?
they do Wolverine, Deadpool. They've done multiple collected editions. World War III Deadpool, Wolverine. They did in the back of multiple Marvel comics for a month. Weapon Extraction, so where they told a story, but a couple pages at a time through different Marvel comics you had to collect. And actually coming out this week, Deadpool, Wolverine, Weapon Extraction, the legitimate comic. They're putting it all into one collected comic, and it comes out this Wednesday.
So it wasn't a case of there was no like synergy, but it just wasn't directed in the right place.
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, there's no reason that you should have messed with Wade Wilson as Deadpool until next year, in my humble opinion. But yeah, they made Deadpool team-ups. They're letting Rob Liefeld do a Deadpool comic, finish up his run there. So yeah, Deadpool's everywhere. Wolverine's everywhere. It's if I get an action figure of either one, gone. Yeah, incredibly popular still. That movie crushed it. And I'm hoping it's going to bring about a lot of success. I mean, honestly, I've heard a lot of hype, which we haven't had in a lot of years about Marvel movies with Captain America and the Sam Wilson movie. So
I guess on the same topic in terms of movies, looking at the distinguished competition with DC and their cinematic universe with James Gunn now spearheading that and kind of being the central figure, I feel like he is doing a really good job already of, I think he's got like Tom King involved with some of the writing, especially with the Supergirl movie. I think I seen something a couple weeks ago where he invited like people like Scott Snyder and a bunch of other comic writers to come see like the Superman set and meet some of the actors. So he definitely wears his love of comic books, love of the art form on his sleeve, and is trying to at least show appreciation for the people that actually work on the books. Like, I guess, have you seen any of that kind of trickle down as people are getting excited for the Superman movie, these DC movies? Or do you foresee that like being like a big help?
Actually foresee that exact thing happening. And for the same reason that the Marvel Cinematic Universe took off, this is why the Marvel Cinematic Universe took off, in Ben K's humble opinion. Because they got the average person to be interested in the stories they told on the big screen, they created a monster. It was never about the comic book reader. We were already showing up. They just started creating fantastic movies with great directors that were well written, and that's why the Marvel Cinematic Universe became such an amazing thing. And then more recently, they seem to have dropped off a little bit, but the stories haven't been quite as gripping, and it almost got too confusing. So I digress back to James Gunn, but his Peacemaker is like one of my favorite years of TV ever. The Penguin was phenomenal. I can't wait for the new Peacemaker. I think what Superman's going to do is really change DCEU. I think James Gunn with Crypto and his ability to bring in the side characters and then make a movie with no origin where you're just straight into it is going to make Superman the most relatable he's ever been to modern pop culture. And I seriously cannot wait. They couldn't have picked a better guy to run the DCEU. I mean, even Creature Commandos and some of the other animated stuff that they have coming out looks phenomenal. And everything that he puts his hands on seems to be entertainment gold because the guy just gets entertainment.
I agree. Ben, if you could give a grade to this year in comic books, thinking holistically in terms of like the titles that have come out, the creative teams that have supported it, like just looking and also like, how business has been going, like what would you grade?
A+.
A+.
It's not even close.
Well, I remember when we did our 2023 end of year, you said this was the best year. Yeah, I think it was
Yeah,
the
and it just
best year. So, so it's gotten only better.
and I'm literally not being a homer. It's literally better. Okay, Star Wars, which is like something iconic from our childhood, people are sleeping on it so hard. After Star Wars ran their 50-issue run that they completed this year, they started a brand new thing called Star Wars Battle of Jakku. And for some reason, even hardcore Star Wars fans kind of stopped collecting Star Wars. But it is literally the brand new canon of Star Wars. It takes place directly after Return of the Jedi ends. And so it is like everything every Star Wars fan could ever want. Luke Skywalker is a full-on Jedi, just kicking ass with a green lightsaber. They introduced new generals, admirals in the Empire who are lying to everybody and telling them that Vader and Palpatine are still alive while they continue a civil war against the Republic. And so you have like real Star Wars canon being added to the comics, which is like, for me, I'm 5 years old. That's the coolest thing that I could ever imagine, making new Star Wars that's actually canon with the characters we love. And then everything, Transformers and Space Ghosts and Thundercats, like in G.I. Joe, like these are like literally, I wasn't kidding. TMNT, this is what I grew up on. This is what made American pop culture so dynamic and amazing. And I mean, now, you should see what I buy in here at Voltron. I spend thousands of dollars a year on Voltron figures. I mean, each one comes out, it's like $400 to $800 brand new, and I'm like, I'll take one of those. And that's one thing that I'm waiting for, and that I think they need to redo in the comics and in the movie is Voltron. I think that it would be a smash success.
Wow.
So
okay. So A+ for the year 2024.
Best stories. I mean, literally the best stories, best comics, best characters across the board. More publishers than ever before. Writers who could be doing anything, writing novels, writing TV shows, writing movies. Literally, Jeff Johns. You know, they've all done this stuff. James Tinian. You know, Paul, David Papios. I can go through the list and names of guys who are just so talented. Scott Snyder. I mean, Jonathan Hickman. Blah blah blah. The best writers ever. So I mean, it was an A+ hands down.
Okay. Looking towards to 2025, thinking like the titles, the comics coming out, what are you most excited for on the comic side? And then a part 2 to that question, what is Gotham City Limit doing to push the limit even further next year?
Well, we are going to, I think for the limit itself in terms of growing, is going to be find creative ways to make this place larger. So we do have, starting in January, I'm going to take a spot over next door to this place where I can then move all of that over. But I really want to create a social media platform outside of this place. You know, we're on Whatnot a lot. There's eBay Live and some other online sales. So for the limit, we want to continue to grow, and then I would love to start going to some Comic-Cons, being a part of the actual comic community outside of Jacksonville, not just here, but, you know, traveling to some other places and checking them out, being a part of it, maybe getting tables, selling exclusives, because, you know, we just love the industry itself. So in terms of Gotham City Limit growth, that's what we've got going on. But really, what I'm focused on is this place, because you wouldn't believe it, but we get so many new customers every single day. Every week, we get at least 3 people who come in who are like, we drive past this place every time. We just never stopped in. And now, you know, and they come in and they check it out. Or they went to the old shop down the street and they have no idea. This one guy got lost on Southside looking for Gotham City Limits because he was trying to go to the whole place. Is this the same place? I'm
when
like,
did you become a Peruvian restaurant?
It is, but it's not, you know? So in terms of what we've got going on here, and then again, there's going to be some stuff that I don't even know I'm going to do yet, because I literally I see opportunities and then I'm like, that's a great one. I don't second guess it. I pounce on it and then I try to make it work. So, I mean, that's probably what in terms of what Gotham City Limits got planned. And then the next thing I think would be creating a more usable comic pull list. You know, because the reality with all these variants and it's what's up? All right, Jonathan, we love you. Thanks, man. But without kind of creating something that is more customizable. Obviously, they've made pull lists for people, but something that we do here that I've never experienced in any other shop is the day before, Monday and Tuesday, even on Wednesday when new comics come out, we allow people to send us emails making requests for comics they want. And so there's a little bit of a struggle in that, and just that we'll print out 65 different emails going into a new comic Wednesday and start pulling covers for people. Hey, you want this variant A? I'm looking for this incentive. I'm looking for this A cover. But I would love to, I'm working with someone, create a program that was customizable for our shop that allowed people maybe through our website to go in, request things, and it automatically kind of put it in order where I could just do. So in terms of like taking this place technologically to the next level, I think is probably where we're headed. We've got a new POS system back here, and we're gonna, being able to, go on the road and do some other stuff. I think is where we're headed.
That's rad, man. As a techie, that makes me all excited, especially a means to like be able to manage your pull list. Because I won't lie, Ben, sometimes sending you that last minute text like, Ben, could you put that?
Well, Botter, you got my personal text message number, so there's not a lot of people who get to text me straight to the phone.
I love the honor. Thank
exactly.
You.
So you are VIP, my dude.
So in terms of the comic books coming out in 2025, what are you most excited for?
Honestly, I haven't really looked.
Quick, how far do you look? Like, this is early December. How far are you looking at?
Well, I used to go through a previews magazine every single month and then make a list of all the new comics that I think people might be interested in, try to make a previews list earlier. And the reality is I'm so busy now that I don't do that anymore. I'm literally about 3 weeks to 4 weeks out, because I'm ordering every single Monday for about a month out. Most of the comics we ordered tonight come out mid-January, late January. So I'm about that far. One previews. I occasionally see stuff online because people will share social media with me and be like, oh, this is coming out. I'm like, oh, I hadn't even heard of that yet. So I am not like, I do not have my finger on the pulse in terms of what's going to come out next summer or next fall that you're definitely going to need. However, I do know that Dynamite Comics continues to make, Silverhawks is coming out. And then I have a feeling there's going to be a number of other titles in that vein from some of the 80s projects that I love coming out as well. And then, like I said earlier, the DC stuff that they're doing, Absolute Martian Manhunter and Absolute Flash are probably the two biggest titles DC wise that I'm generally looking forward to. I can't wait to see what they can do, because those are two characters that could be hugely popular, and if they write great series, they're going to be great. And then one that got the most, occasionally we'll put up on our social media new comics and covers that are coming out when they're on FOC, The Ultimate Wolverine. Got the most interaction of any social media post that we put up in terms of like ordering. That's coming out. I think that one's going to be giant.
Yeah, I mean, it's, Wolverine sells itself at this point
already. And then they've teased it that he's like the Winter Soldier of this universe, and then like, is it Logan? Is he Russian? Like, what it could be really
so many
cool.
layers of badassery. It's like, okay, all right, that book's just gonna print money. All right, Ben, I guess last but not least, because we did this last time, and I really like this as an outro segment, but. And all that, but you rattle off recommendations like it's nothing. So I want to go ahead and sign off by asking you for some recommendations right now. If a newbie, if someone completely new to comic books was to walk into the shop right now and ask, hey, I want to get into comics, point me somewhere.
Yep.
Where would you point them towards?
Well, generally what I say is give me one or two characters that you generally like.
Okay.
So, they'll kind of like, and so if you're a DC fan at all, I will take you over to DC All In, the one shot that came out earlier
Yep.
this year, right after Absolute Power came
Mhm.
out. I mean, I could show you Absolute Power and I can show you all the independent ones, but All In is the perfect spot for a brand new DC fan. It's a flip book. It's got the one story that's the reestablishment of the Justice League Dark Side story that kicks off the brand new Justice League Unlimited that just came out this previous week. And then on the flip side, it's the first appearance of the new Absolute Universe, Absolute Batman, Absolute Superman, and Absolute Wonder Woman. And it's written by Scott Snyder and Joshua Williamson. And those guys, if you've ever talked to them, and I know you have personally on your show, they are so passionate about comics that I fucking love guys like that. Because without them, we could never sell anything. And you can tell in their comics, you know, how cool it is. So DC wise, that's where I would lead you. In Marvel wise, it's actually a really tough thing because there aren't a lot of really cool spots besides the new Ultimates to jump on. However, two really cool books that came out this year, Aliens versus Avengers. They've done 2 issues of that. Phenomenal.
Lo and hold, my surprise when I learned that it is not just, I don't know what made me think it was just a 2-issue series.
Oh, yeah.
But when I got to the end of
Well, because
issue
it's
2,
taken them so long. That's why. Because
is
it's like
true.
months in between.
That is true. But you know what? I actually don't mind the month in between. It kind of builds the hype. And then when I do see it, it is like, oh,
And then,
top of the pile.
And then Marvel right now, if you want something cool. Sorry, I knocked something over on you. Marvel, something cool. Amazing Spider-Man, the legacy run of Amazing Spider-Man is really tough. A lot of times it's pretty bad. Sometimes it's filler. They're just trying to knock out some issues so they can get to 1,000 is what it's felt like over the last 50 or some issues. But 2 issues ago, they started the 8 Deaths of Spider-Man. And that has been 2, and they've done 2 so far in this run of story arc, 8 Deaths of Spider-Man. And that's so good. It's real. It's painful. You empathize with Peter Parker, and the story's great. It's Doom as Sorcerer Supreme. So those are really cool. And then Marvel did reboot all their X-Men stuff recently. So there's a bunch of really cool places to jump on there. And then Ghost Machine. I tell people this all the time, but Geiger and Rook and Redcoat are phenomenal reads, like real adult story reads. And then anything Zach Kaplan writes.
Hell
you know,
yeah,
man. You know, I was talking to him on X, and I told him anytime he comes back to Jacksonville, we would love to have him in the shop.
That'd be great.
Yeah, that would be phenomenal. But Dark Empty Voids and Kill All Immortals by Zach Kaplan this year are 2 amazing comics. And if you've never read Port of Earth by Zach Kaplan, I bring in his 2 volumes. In fact, there it is right there in front of us on that thing, all collected, all 12 issues. But then I bring in the trade paperbacks because I just consistently sell those over and over and over again. Badass.
I'm thinking about reaching out to them to get them back on the show because I had them on when Port Over initially came out, and it was a lot of fun. So
that story's so good.
Okay. How about this? What if someone that is a huge manga fan comes in and they're like, "Hey, what do you got for manga? Point me somewhere."
Yeah. So that's probably my weakness just in terms of like what I actually know and read, because there's so much product and they don't really make American floppies in terms of that stuff. But right now, I would show them the TMNT Naruto. That was a huge crossover event that they have going on. And then they make comics called Manga Z. But really what I would do is I'd take them to my manga section. We get One Piece in, which is very popular, Dragon Slayer, or Demon Slayer, excuse me. And some of the other titles that go along with that. DC and Marvel have both started producing cool manga. So they've got Joker, Superman, kind of like the modern characters in your manga style books.
Isn't there one where Joker's raising a baby Batman?
Yes, 100%. It caused ripples. Yeah, but it's
Superman
hysterical.
Is a foodie,
yeah, and he's a terrible father. Go figure. No, so that stuff is very popular. Please.
Let me ask you. Because on the topic of DC manga, I'm curious, how have Compact Comics done for you?
So
DC's attempt at like the manga format or size.
Yeah, so Books are just a little different here than they are in other places, just simply because we sell them for so cheap. So yes, they're awesome. And what the best part about those DC compact books are the awesome stories they tell.
Oh yeah.
So, everywhere from Kingdom Come all the way down the line through Dark Knight's Return.
It's like for $10 guaranteed hit too.
Joker, Killing Smile, and all that stuff. So those books are awesome and fantastic. But in general, now once we got past the initial order of them, we probably got 5 to 10 of each one that came out. Once they're sold, we kind of wait for people to reorder them from us, kind of always looking for the new one.
Okay.
But I will say they've done some things that tie together to some old stories. So, like, if you loved Batman Long Halloween, they're literally doing the sequel where they're where they're giving tribute to Tim Sale.
Hush 2.
Right, with Jim Lee on it, and anything Jim Lee touches seems to turn to gold right now. Yeah. So,
right. Ben, I guess I'm going to give you an opportunity. Is there anything that we did not cover? I mean, we went through my entire list. We got through the some audience questions. Is there anything that you want to say before we wrap up about this year in comics?
Well, I just think that it's really important for every single person who's ever listening to the comic podcast to go back to the roots of why they started in comics, and that is because you love it. The money part of comics is actually the downside of it. It's cool that they can be collectible and that later on they can be valuable, but sometimes it ruins the hobby of what's going on simply. So what I tell people all the time is, because they'll be like, which cover should I get, Ben? And I'm like, the one that you love the most, the one that you looked at and was like, damn, that was so cool, I gotta have one of those. That is the whole point of being in the comic industry. And then find yourself a shop where you just get to go be you, where no one's mad if you just stand there and talk to people, if you bring up a random conversation. If you go to a shop right now and they are disinterested in talking to you and they really only care about money, go. I know every city's got one, whether or not you're lucky enough to live in Jacksonville or Maryland with Third Eye Comics are, or Graham Cracker in the middle of the country, Graham Cracker's stores. But that is kind of the whole point of all of this stuff. You didn't start a podcast on this stuff because you thought, oh, this is going to be the easiest way for me to be the most popular person in the country. It was literally like, what a cool opportunity it would be if I could continuously make a podcast about stuff that I love. And so for me, comics and in general, this entire community is about the people and the passion and remembering, hey, I love this. When people come in and they're upset about spending money on comics, I'm like, well, man, you don't need to. And if it's causing you distress, then maybe let's find a new hobby. I don't want to kick anybody out of this place. I want to sell comics to any single person who comes in. But that really should be the whole point of it. And when you look at covers and when you read comics, it should make you happy. It shouldn't feel like a chore. So going into 2025, I want you to be reinvigorated about what the hobby is to you and what you like. And you're not doing it because you're fear of missing out, but simply because it's something you want. And then look out for one cover coming out next year, X-Men 10 by Ryan Stegman. I might have shared it with you. I think I did. Cyclops. But so far, it looks like it's going to be my cover of the year. It's phenomenal. I think it's just a standard A cover, but that's something else that you can go look up on the internet and be like, God damn, that guy Ben knows what he's talking about.
Ben, always a pleasure. I was looking forward to doing this episode, and I'm glad that you were up to talk end of year a little early. With that said, listeners, you guys, we just took it to the limit.
Every single time you can find us on
Kingsbury.
social media, super
I'm gonna
easy.
have it all linked in the show notes. And I think one thing I wanted to mention too is I know there's a lot of listeners right now who don't have the fortune and opportunity to live here in Jacksonville, Florida. And they're like, man, I wish I could take it to the limit. and they can.
Yeah,
They can go online.
literally anytime. Our online shop generally is for most of our exclusive comics, right? And so that's what, but if you reach out to us, if you go to GothamCityLimit.com, we have a contact us now page. It has a message board that literally just shoots messages to our shop email that everybody has access to. If you reach out to us, we can take it to the limit from any place in the world.
What's the furthest you've sent some comics out to?
Australia.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Like a full pull list type of, or a bunch of books?
Guy who collects every single Tyler Kirkham cover that comes out.
Wow.
So
That is
this guy,
pretty
yeah.
interesting.
So, but we sent him to Canada.
That's cool.
You know what? We were talking earlier about what my favorite memory is. One of my most proud things that happened in the shop is when someone moves from here and then it says, "Let's just keep my pull going." I'll get calls from people. There's nowhere in the city I want to get this from. I'm just gonna keep it here.
Interesting.
We're gonna ship it out once a month. With somebody just moved to Washington State, they kept their pull. I got a guy. Shout out to Stanley Peak, older gentleman, lives in New Hampshire, and he'll just send me texts like, "Ben, it's a glorious day. Stan Lee's world has just been delivered to my front door." And I'm like,
That's
you know what,
awesome.
man? He's like, "It's a beautiful day in Vermont today, 60 degrees outside." I'm like, "It's so
That's
cool,
awesome.
Stan." Yeah, so you can literally take it from anywhere you want. If you're looking for anything at all, I implore you, just send us an email. The worst we're going to say is no, but what ends up happening is a lot of times we have just about anything anybody's looking for. So, yeah, whether you live in Jacksonville or not, there's zero reason you can't take it to the limit.
There we go. And we're going to go ahead and end it on that. To our video watchers, thank you so much for watching this. To our audio listeners, thank you so much for listening. We just took you to the limit. You guys enjoy the day. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. And look, continue to read good comic books. Continue to make mine in your short box. And I'll catch you next week. All right? Peace.